congratulations on your brand new movie, Queen Bee, but also congratulations on a career that has brought so many special films to us over the years as well.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice of you to say.
The last year has been such a crazy year. Has that kind of given you a chance to look back over your career? Because I know for a lot of us, you've been in some of those classic movies that we've all loved since we were kids. What has it been like looking back over your career over the past few years?
I think when I started to do conventions, horror conventions, which I sort of avoided for a long time, I started doing about 10 years ago, I guess, maybe a little longer, that's when it started to hit me. Because before then, not completely pre-internet, but I wasn't spending a lot of time on the internet, and I wasn't that clear on the level of I had. But when I started meeting people at conventions and people sharing stories with me and saying, like, I drove 8 hours just to tell you how much you scared the hell out of me or whatever, that's when I started to really get it.
So tell us a little bit about what it was like back then in the 80s. And you were in classic movies like Children of the Corn and Back to the Future. Did you get a feeling with those movies when you first read the script that they were going to become the classic films that they became?
No, I can't say. I mean, I think, everybody thought Back to the Future might be pretty big because Spielberg was involved, but people didn't really know that much Robert Zemeckis at that point. But what I thought it was going to go on to be, maybe, I think it's still top 2-3 biggest trilogies of all time. No. And Children of the Corn horror films were, looked down upon at that time. The critics, panned it and me, big time. Now, 30 plus years later, horror's gone completely mainstream. So turns out we were on the right side of history, which you just don't know. Only time's going to tell.
As a young actor, how did you get over those bad reviews? Because like you just said, they weren't just bad reviews for the film itself, they were bad reviews for you. How did you overcome that? And how does that make you feel now, knowing that film has become a cult classic and screens every day around the world somewhere?
That's true. That's absolutely true. The first time something like that happened, it was a bit shocking. I'm not going to lie, but the whole process was shocking. Myself and John Franklin, who played Isaac, were not prepared for the reaction we were going to get in the world when that movie came out, which was children running to their mothers crying, horrified, things like that. That happened to us all the time. And just had no idea the movie was going to have that kind of impact, and I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said they had nightmares about my character. So when I started hearing things like that, though, I said, well, if I can get into somebody's psyche, I must have done a pretty good job as an actor, no matter what that critic thought, Yeah. And just kept going about my work.
How do you react to something like kids running away from you screaming? Because I know that was one of the reasons why Michael Rosenbaum walked away from Smallville in the end. How as a human do you react to that? Because that would be a pretty terrifying thing to have happen to you.
It was shocking. Just the whole thing. I remember Westwood in Los Angeles, where UCLA is. I remember I was walking around there shortly after the movie came out, and just all of a sudden, all these people are turning around and staring at me. And, at 18 years old, you're still very self-conscious. It was very strange. The first time that all happening made me very self-conscious and very uncomfortable. I was not ready for the reactions that movie got. But what it also taught me was the power of cinema, and that, whatever movies you do, you're going to leave an impression or an impact regardless. And so in a movie, say, like Colors, I was very happy to be involved in. I knew that if Dennis Hopper was involved, it was going to be something interesting about the LA gangs, and I grew up around all of that, so I really wanted to be part of that, even though it was, I think my character was number 87 on the list, but I knew nobody knew there was white gangbangers in Los Angeles. I knew that, but I knew it, but they didn't. So to me, to be able to be part of that and expose that whole culture, to me, it really opened a lot of people's eyes to what was going on in South Central Los Angeles. So you realize you can be part of things that can have a huge impact. And then again, going back to conventions, I've learned the people that love horror, it's more of a tongue-in-cheek experience for them. So it's helped me take having done a horror film a lot less seriously. For them, it's a lot of fun. And but you do realize this, if you do like a movie like Memphis Belle, or I did, not too long ago, a miniseries Texas Rising, that you're getting to be a part of, telling a story of history. That those things are learning tools, and it's a pretty cool thing to be part of.
Definitely. And talking of things that had a big impact, you've been in some of the biggest television shows that we've also had over the last few decades, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your appearance in Seinfeld. Tell us a little bit about what that felt like walking onto the set of the biggest TV show in the world and how that came about for you.
It was just an audition, that's all that was. I'd been on sitcom sets before, so I was familiar with that to a certain degree. But the way they did it was just the classiest I've ever seen. First off, most of the time they shoot 3-camera video, and they shoot 4-camera film. So that's a huge difference in quality. Normally, they have someone who warms up the audience. They're called, they tell them jokes and keep them going. Jerry Seinfeld would do that himself, which is just unheard of for one of the actors to go out and do. So it just created a whole different level of personableness and relatedness. They also had a live band, which also I've never seen on one. So everything they did was just top notch. Probably the funniest moment for me about doing that in front of a live audience, which I had not done before, but it's like doing theater kind of. So it was a really fun thing to do. Was I was doing my scene with what's his name? What's the actor I did my scene with? The guy who played, oh my God, they have to think of names under pressure. I blank. Do you know the scene, the Rochelle video? Who's the actor?
I'm trying to think. Jason Alexander?
Yeah, thank you. Jason Alexander. So Jason Alexander I don't think he really had a clue that I'd done much work or whatever. I was just a guy doing the show. But when we were doing our work in between setups, they asked the audience if they have any questions, and the questions were for me. That really, I think, shocked his brain that they wanted to talk to me and not talk to him. And then he kind of changed his whole way he was treating me from that point on. Not that he was treating me bad, but he was just a little indifferent,
Yeah. That's having a live audience like that. It's almost like a convention. Was that one of the first times when you realized that things were different like that? Because you mentioned before about going to conventions was what made you first start looking back over your career, but that moment there where the audience were asking you questions over Jason Alexander, was that one of those first moments for you?
No, it just made me laugh inside because you could see the look on his face, like, what, they want to talk to you? I also got a little beef with Larry David, which I didn't know who Larry David really was, and now you see he sort of portrays himself in his show, which is just hysterical. But what happens in sitcoms, you do a table reading, and you do your jokes, as it were, your punchlines, and I did my stuff, and they all laughed, but then they start questioning themselves. They sort of think, like, if they don't laugh like 3 or 4 times at it, that it's not funny enough. My logic is an audience only has to laugh once, right? They're hearing it for the first time. So he just started really questioning, like, some of the dialogue I had, and I said, no, this is good, this is funny, this is perfect. And then he started saying things. I said, let's just do it in front of the audience and see if it gets a laugh. And he looked at me like, who the hell do you think you are, But I didn't know who he was. But when I did it, I got a laugh. And I remember looking at him going like, see? Because I can get a little cocky sometimes. I trust my work, and I believe in myself. But I probably shouldn't have pissed Larry David off like that. But I did.
Now, I wanted to chat to you about one of the films that you've done that is one of my favorite films. It's one of those films that I always go back to if I'm having a bad day. Faster in 2010 with The Rock. Tell us a little bit about how you became involved with that film and what it was like working with Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good film. It was CBS Films was putting some things out, and none of it ended up doing great in the box office, but I thought it was a good film. I thought it had a really good cast, and I thought Dwayne Johnson did a really good job, and it was great to get to work with Billy Bob Thornton again. Billy Bob Thornton and I played brothers in this really terrible TV show that was kind of like shot live called The Judge. It was like, I think it was the first thing he ever did. And I remember at home because his VW bug had broken down, and he was telling me about how he was writing and going to direct because that was the way he thought he was going to be able to break in, and nobody was doing that at that time, right? And I was like, dropped him off. I was like, good luck with that, buddy. Hope that works out for you. And, Sling Blade is like, the difference maker in his career that, he's a fine actor, but that's what just broke him out, which is something he wrote and directed. And he was far ahead of the curve, man. He knew what was up. I was one thinking I knew what was up. So it was great to reconnect with him. The funny story for me about, I think I auditioned for it, but I don't remember much about that. But the funny thing was, the first 2 or 3 days was the scene where we have gotten them and we're threatening them to where the money is, and then we kill his brother, right? And so for like 3 days, Dwayne Johnson's going, no, and the director just keeps having him do it, right? Like, I mean, over and over. If it had been me, I would have been like, after like 3 takes, I'd have got up and said, like, dude, what do you want? Like, just tell me what you want, and I'll just do that so we can be done with this. But Dwayne didn't complain, didn't hesitate, just gave it his all over and over and over. Just nothing fazed him. He's just a complete like team player that way, right? And so after we finally get that part done, they turn around on me because I'm the one telling them, tell us where the money is, blah, blah, blah. And I get like 3 takes. And by this time, I could tell Dwayne was a cool guy. And we've all been going through this together for 3 days. And so after they cut to me to move on, I looked at him and I said out loud to everybody, see, Dwayne, that's how you do it. And then the room just came, and Dwayne laughed his ass off. And that just shows you the kind of guy he is.
Yeah, he's here in Australia doing some stuff at the moment with his TV show. And everybody that runs into him says what a lovely, lovely guy he is. I wanted to talk to you too about Queen Bees, your new film. This has got such an amazing cast. Tell us a little bit about the film and about the amazing cast that's with this film as well.
Yeah, so how I got on that was Michael Lembeck, the director. I took an acting class in LA, a comedy class that he was part of, him and his sister, Helene Lembeck, called the Harvey Lembeck Comedy Workshop. Their father taught for years. He was a very successful actor in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And when I heard about this project, I hit him up and I was like, hey, is there anything? And he said, I don't have something huge because I just really do a cameo in it. He goes, but you'll get to work with Ellen Bernstein, Jane Curtin, Anne Margaret, and Loretta Devine. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm down for that. So to get to work with those 4 iconic actresses was great. And the first half of the scene was me watching them basically talk. I basically still Bernstein's purse eventually, but so really I got to just sit around for the first half of the day and just watch them work, which was just great because they're all formidable actresses in their own right. So it was just really great to watch how they all did their thing,
Yeah, and you've also got a solo album called Acoustic Gains Volume 1 coming out as well. Tell us a little bit about your love for music. Was the love for music there before the love for acting, or did they both come about the same time?
So I knew I wanted to be an actor apparently very, very young. I remember my first memory of going on stage was at 10, and I was hooked at that point. So that started that. I started taking music and acting lessons at like 13, so those both started at the same time. So I've been playing music, guitar for a long time. What I really enjoy about music is songwriting. Performing's all right, but songwriting's fantastic. That's when the creative juices are at their best. And over the years, helped me get out some things I might have been depressed about or had angst about, or a lot of broken relationship songs, a lot of those. But it would help me grieve stuff. So it was really more of a therapeutic thing for me for a long time. But I decided recently, this was definitely COVID related when we were all, like I said, on lockdown. It was time to start putting out this material. I've held on to a lot of this stuff for a lot of years, and I started doing research and realized you could put together a little home studio, and you could actually get some things tracked, and it's not that difficult. Even a neophyte like me could actually record some material. So that's how it started. And so Acoustic Gains, we just dropped our second single yesterday, which is called Cherish. And, yeah, it's a very mellow record, a very acoustic-driven record. And I also have a band called Ripple Street, and I'm working on our fourth single we've put out this year. The last one we put out is called Would You, and to say it's Black Sabbath-esque would not be a lie. And you can find all this stuff on Spotify and iTunes and Amazon and Deezer and all that. But yeah, if you have a Spotify, just check out Courtney Gains or check out Ripple Street, and you can check out what we've been doing.
Definitely, and we're going to take a listen to Cherish in just a moment as well on the show. But
cool.
Yeah, so did you find that this last 12 months was actually a great time to write music but also work on the music because just about everything else was shut down, really?
Yeah, it ended up being both. We brought in a new band member, Frankie Buggus, on Ripple Street, and he's a really good guitar player and also a good producer and engineer. So they started. The bass player Stephen Lee Adams and I have been writing stuff for years, and we've done a previous album. But to have him come on board, they started sending me a lot of material, and you just don't know if you're going to click with material. But I clicked with all of it right away. It was really easy to come up with lyrics and ideas. And one of the songs we put out I wrote one song, the music as well. A lot of times I co-write most of the music as well, but called The Great Divide. That was just after a year of the whole COVID thing. It seemed like everybody went off the rails with the politics thing too. Like everybody just went crazy. So I felt like I needed to write a song about that. It's just how that divide is what's weakening us as a nation, as they say.
Yeah.
We're spending so much time arguing amongst ourselves. We're weakening our whole thing. And so I really felt like I needed to say something about that. And there's a music video up you can see on YouTube as well that I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. That showed, everything from Black Lives Matter protests to, Trump protests. It really showed that everybody's out there, pissed off.
Yeah.
And no one's right, no one's completely wrong here. So I'm pretty proud of that song.
Definitely. Well, Courtney, I know we are running right out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on our show today. I know a lot of our listeners out there are going to want to go and check out Queen Bees. They're also going to want to check out Acoustic Gains as well. But thank you so much for chatting to us. It has been an absolute honor, and thank you for all the memories that you've given us over the years as well.
Thank you. Very, very kind of you, and thank you for playing the song. That's exciting for me.